What's up, Steelers Nation? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we're talking Pittsburgh Steelers every single day. News, rumors, player breakdowns, you name it. And man, oh man, it's getting hot in Latrobe, and I'm not just talking about the weather. George Pickens is back in the headlines for, yep, you guessed it, throwing shade at the Steelers again. This isn't the first time, and it's definitely not going to be the last, especially if the offense doesn't find a way to keep him happy. And if that wasn't enough to stir the pot, there's more buzz growing around Terry McLaurin possibly being on the Steelers' radar. Yes, that Terry McLaurin. It's still early, but the smoke is starting to build, and where there's smoke, you know how it goes. There might just be some fire. And don't worry, we'll also get into some early winners from Steelers training camp, because not everything is drama, believe it or not. Let's get right into this George Pickens situation because it's starting to feel like deja vu all over again. So, Pickens recently made another appearance on a podcast. Dude's basically a regular at this point. And he had some, let's say, interesting things to say about how he's being used in Pittsburgh. When asked about his role in the offense, he didn't hold back. He said, and I quote, "Sometimes I feel like I'm just out there running cardio." Yikes. Now, if you've been following Pickens closely, that line shouldn't surprise you. This guy has never been shy about expressing how he feels. Whether it's body language on the sideline, cryptic Instagram stories, or now podcasts, he lets it out. But what's wild is the timing of this. Training camp just started. New offensive coordinator, new quarterback competition, new direction for the offense. And yet here we are, with our top receiver, and yes, he is the most talented receiver on this team, already sounding fed up. Now let's unpack that running cardio comment, because that isn't just about touches. That's a comment about purpose, about play design, and probably about quarterback trust too. You don't say something like that if you believe the offense is putting you in position to make plays. You say that when you feel like a decoy. You say that when you know what you're capable of and the coaches just aren't dialing it up for you. Last season, Pickens had games where he had 2 or 3 targets. This is a guy who makes contested catches look routine, a guy who's arguably one of the best 50-50 ball receivers in the league. And yet, in critical moments, he was being ignored. That frustration has been simmering for a while, and it's clearly still boiling over. And let's not forget, last year he also posted "Free me" on social media after a loss. The team tried to downplay it. Tomlin, as always, kept it professional. But now, here we are again. And you have to wonder, is this going to be a recurring theme? Because this isn't just a one-off anymore. This is starting to feel like a guy who doesn't trust the system, doesn't believe in the game plan, and maybe, just maybe, doesn't fully buy into the locker room culture. And that's where it gets dicey. See, Mike Tomlin doesn't run his team like other coaches. There's a lot of player freedom, sure, but there's also a clear line. You cross it too many times, you get labeled as a distraction. And once you get that label under Tomlin, your days might be numbered. Pickens is still on a rookie deal, but let's be honest, this team is watching him closely. He's either going to explode in this new offense under Arthur Smith, or he's going to be on the outside looking in, especially if his behavior starts affecting the rest of the locker room. And if it does, that brings us to our next point, Terry McLaurin. Now let me just say, we're not reporting a confirmed trade here, but the idea of Terry McLaurin to Pittsburgh is starting to pick up steam in NFL circles, and for good reason. If you look at the Steelers' front office, they've shown over the last 2 seasons that they're willing to make moves. Omar Khan is not Kevin Colbert. This is a more aggressive front office, more willing to swing deals if it fills a major need. And if the situation with George Pickens doesn't improve, or worse, deteriorates, then you absolutely have to look at alternatives. Enter McLaurin. McLaurin is the definition of a professional wide receiver, consistent, mature, great route runner, great hands, and a leader on and off the field. He's been putting up 1,000-yard seasons despite dealing with quarterbacks who belong more on the waiver wire than under center. Imagine what he could do with a fresh start in a system that values his skill set. And for Pittsburgh, he'd be a perfect fit opposite a rising tight end group, a run-heavy system, and a new quarterback trying to establish chemistry. Whether that quarterback ends up being Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, you need a reliable veteran wideout to move the chains, especially when Deontay Johnson is gone and the wide receiver room lacks proven depth behind Pickens. If Washington does decide to shop McLaurin, and there have been some whispers that they might consider it if their season starts off slow, the Steelers would be wise to pick up the phone. Sure, it would cost draft capital, probably a second-rounder and maybe a player, but think about this. If you're trying to maximize this roster window while TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Cam Hayward are still at the top of their game, then you make aggressive moves. You don't sit back and wait 3 years for a young receiver to develop. You go get a guy who can produce right now. Now don't get it twisted. this wouldn't be about replacing Pickens today. It's more of a long-term hedge. Because if the tension with Pickens grows and the team isn't willing to offer him a big money extension in a year or two, you better have a plan B. And if that plan B can also help your offense this season, then it's a win-win. It's still just chatter right now, but watch it closely. These types of stories tend to start with smoke and end with Schefter breaking the news on a random Tuesday. Now let's switch gears a little and talk about what's going right, because despite the Pickens drama, there's a lot to like coming out of Steelers training camp so far. Let's start with Joey Porter Jr. This kid looks like he's taken that year 2 leap already. Physical, confident, chirping like his dad, but backing it up on the field. He's been locking up receivers in one-on-ones, including George Pickens himself, and that's no small feat. You can tell he put the work in this offseason. His footwork looks smoother, his timing at the catch point has improved, and he's starting to look like the kind of corner you can trust to follow WR1s. If he continues this trend through preseason, he might end up being one of the most important players on the entire defense this year. Another standout has been Darnell Washington. Now, I've been high on this guy since the draft, and he's making me look smart right now. He's been dominating in the run game, pancaking linebackers, creating lanes, and also showing soft hands in red zone drills. At 6 feet 7 inches, he's basically a walking mismatch. Arthur Smith is going to love using him in 12 personnel. You line him up next to Pat Freiermuth, and suddenly you've got size, strength, and flexibility in the passing and run game. He's going to be a huge factor this season, especially near the goal line. And then there's Russell Wilson. Look, say what you want about his last 2 years, but the early reports out of camp say he looks leaner, more focused, and more vocal. He's got something to prove, and it shows. He's running the offense with command, hitting his spots, and establishing chemistry with guys like Allen Robinson and Calvin Austin. That doesn't mean Justin Fields is out of the race. Fields has had his moments too. But right now, Russ looks like